Hey Gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Cory.
And I'm Matt. And each week this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of subjects that grind our gears, rev our engines, or just need a bit more conversation.
A little tongue-tied over there, Matt?
Yeah, a little.
It's not like we talk or anything for the next hour or so. Yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation this week. Because
there were no gears to grind in the making of this episode.
Yes. So I've revisited some past conversations you and I have both had about tonight's topic, and it makes me smile. It makes me laugh. And I'm very excited to talk about.
Your reaction makes me nervous.
No, I want to talk about all things Volkswagen ID.4 tonight.
What was that?
Volkswagen? You want me to say Volkswagen? But I don't know. I kind of squeaked there. What's going on? You got me all giddy because I'm making you talk EVs. Yes. So we had the privilege, I'm going to say, we are very grateful to Patterson Volkswagen here in Tyler, Texas, for loaning us one for a few hours one afternoon. The reason why I say we had the privilege of the experience of privilege of having one for 4 hours is because I had the dumbest of ideas and the worst timing for said idea. I wanted to race you.
Yeah.
Only I didn't have a car.
No.
Or wheels.
Right.
Just my 2 feet.
Uh-huh.
And it's summer.
It was your idea.
And it's Texas.
Uh-huh.
And it's hot.
And I love the air conditioning.
So if you have not yet checked it out,
shame on you.
Shame on you. Go right now. Stop. Go to youtube.com/GT Garage Talk and watch our video from this past Tuesday, Zero Emissions Race.
Yeah.
It was just that and more.
I'm still not convinced that you didn't cheat. Just throwing that out there.
Okay, we'll get into that. But the whole premise was a zero emission commute from downtown Tyler, Texas to my home, and two completely different ways to follow through with said zero emissions or somewhat zero emissions, because I'm not promising that I did not make some emissions on the way.
So exactly. You're about 4 blocks off of the main highway that goes north and south here in Tyler, and it also runs right through downtown, which means it was just about as straight a shot from downtown to your houses could possibly be.
And there were two alternate routes. So in the video, I talk about not having to stop for red lights. And if you're not familiar with the way I traveled versus the way you traveled, it sounds like I'm running red lights and just dodging traffic Frogger style.
Yeah.
Which I may have done once or twice. But no, basically the route I took after I got out of downtown was through neighborhoods and four-way stops and less congested streets that I knew, because it's my home turf, that I would be able to keep going with a quick glance left and right, whereas the route you were going was, again, the main thoroughfare, Broadway, from downtown to my house.
Well, so it was much more appetizing purely based on the air conditioning.
Right. And the distance was close to the runner's favorite 5K. It was just under a 5K. It was like 2.6, 2.7 miles. I can't remember exactly. My app messed up on me and did not record the run. So I can't tell you this particular run exactly how far. But we do plan on doing something similar again, because you've issued a challenge to me, and we'll get back to that a little bit later. We'll chronologically work our way through this race.
Okay.
So, yes, we started off downtown on the square. You were eating some frozen custard, and I was stretching, and I did not do near enough stretching for July 24th in Texas. And it had been a couple weeks since I had really run regularly. The schedule's been crazy. I've traveled to Chicago.
I'm going to interject here just for a second.
Okay.
I love you. but anyone who says running regularly should be psychologically evaluated. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think you touched on that just a little in the video. But yes, I used to be of that mindset. And then I lost some marbles, and here I am.
Something broke.
Yeah, something broke. I moved into an apartment complex really close to some running trails. Said apartment complex did not have a gym because of the running trails. And I said, okay, I'm going to take advantage of it. And I leaned in, and here I am. I will say my 3-year-old son has derailed me from my peak performance. I got down into sub 9-minute miles. I'm nowhere near that now. Trying to find a routine with a child in the house and not wanting to put all of my time with him away and not wanting to put all of evening time strictly on Holly, his mom, my wife. I've had to get creative with when I run, and then 100-degree temperatures and 80+% humidity.
I mean, technically, it hasn't yet been 100 degrees.
False. So you and I reviewed my car, Nelly Cruz, for our 500 sub special, which we'll talk about next week.
Right. While
I was driving around just the other day, I saw 101 degrees on my car's outside temperature display.
Oh, well, see, so, I've seen 100 degrees on the one in my car several times, as has my wife.
So therefore it counts.
But to me, if the meteorologist doesn't say,
oh, what do they know?
100.
I can ask Siri right now if it's going to rain, and it's been raining off and on all day, and she'll tell me there's no rain in the forecast.
Yeah, she's off her rocker, too.
She's going off those same meteorologists. So.
Oh, my goodness.
I think around here it's just their best guess, and nobody holds their feet to the fire if they get it wrong.
Pretty much.
But back to our race.
Sorry,
so,
we're getting tangents all over the place. Psychological health and weathermen.
To that end, running has been my therapy, and that I'm sure makes absolutely no sense to you because of your pre-mentioned stance.
Right.
But for the half hour, the hour and a half that I'm away, I'm just listening to music. I've got no worries other than the next step that I'm taking. I can go at whatever pace I want, which around here, since we've moved again, since we've had my son, we moved into this house that is around all the hills in Tyler.
Including the one you live on.
Yes. And in fact, I've looked it up. The highest altitude, the highest elevation point in the city proper is walking distance from my house.
Wait, your walking distance or my walking distance? Because
both.
Okay.
Because I can tell you from that hill, aside from the trees, that are planted around you, you look out in the distance and all you see is treetops of the rest of the city. So, yes, the highest geographical point in the city of Tyler, Texas is just over behind you as you were sitting here right now. Yes.
Back over that way.
Yes. So, yes, I was totally insane to pitch this idea, but I also wanted to do it because who else is racing a car on foot? Who else is dumb enough in the middle of summer to race a car on foot?
Yeah, right? Jeremy Clarkson did it, but it was like 60 feet or something like that. Like,
yes.
Racing a sprinter. Anyway.
Yeah, and they've done some fun, interesting races, which I kind of want to piggyback on.
Yeah.
We've got some ideas for some future crazy ideas coming at you in the future. So if you have not yet, shameless plug right here, to subscribe to the GT Garage Talk YouTube channel. Like I said, youtube.com/GT Garage Talk. You'll help us out immensely. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're reviewing Matt's Subaru, whatever he's done to it at that point. You were just waiting. You had that one pulled up, ready to go.
Maybe.
Yeah. But very excited about that. But now to the race.
To the race.
Yes. First and foremost,
Uh-huh.
I'm sad because I was the one, given the amount of time that we had to prep and do all this, I was the one who, you and I had both previously agreed, you would start off on this, we would both start on the square,
Right.
but the car would be just off the square in the parking garage.
Yeah.
And again, due to the timing, I was going to park it, run back, stretch a little bit, and we'd start the race.
Right, because I don't run.
Right. And we were literally like running out of time because we were doing some B-roll shots and different things that we had to do while we had the car in our possession.
Right.
And I was not thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, but I parked the car right next to a huge truck. But because of the way I came around the corner, I parked it on the side that I thought was the back side, which for you was in your face.
Yeah, it was the back side of the garage, but it was the
front side
almost exact point where I walked into the building. So,
which, if I had parked it on the other side, it was like an F-250, 350 years.
Yeah, it was a big truck.
It was a massive Ford truck that would have completely obscured the ID.4 from your vision if I had put it on the proper side of it.
And the panic button didn't work. I was walking around the garage holding the panic button down.
Dang, don't tell me that.
I literally,
you would have been in there forever.
Up a half a flight and looked around and held the button down and nothing happened. And I thought, I bet he put it on the top. And then I thought, well, but he told me he was thinking about putting it on the top. So I wonder if he put it on the bottom. Maybe I'll go down first. And then I was like, nah, I'll just go up a flight.
Dang it.
And I went right up the flight and ta-da! There it was.
Right in front of you. So man, just...
Yeah.
I was too panicked at the moment, looking at the clock and wanting to make sure you hit peak traffic.
Right.
Which apparently does not exist on Fridays.
It didn't have... Well, it was all going the other direction from where I was. So. And
that was the most upsetting part to me because...
It was a little mind-boggling.
What the what? And my wife works downtown. We started at her work.
Right.
And she told us she knows that the peak time for traffic heading home was the 5 o'clock window, which makes perfect sense to both of us. And she also, just kind of warned us when it starts tailing off. And so we leaned into her knowledge of that. But what we didn't take into account was that it was a Friday in summer. And I think what happened was... It's Friday in summer. People either worked a modified schedule, maybe got off a little bit early, got out of the office a little bit early, weren't in the office on Friday because of whatever reason, new world situations. And so we did not see the traffic that we thought we would. Yeah. As it was, I was blessed by the fact that you had some custard and some bottles of water and had to make a little pit stop.
I did
on the way.
Have to make a pit stop.
I think that was the fatal flaw. So I guess we can just dive right into the finale. Again, spoiler warning. If you have not watched it, you have been warned.
Right.
But
essentially, I gave it away when I said what I said at the beginning of the episode. So.
Right. But here we are. So I absolutely love the fact that as you come racing down my street and up the driveway, which watching you do that, I did not think you would make it up there. That's a steep driveway. Yeah. Anyway.
The ID.4 handled it like a champ.
It did. It absolutely did. And I was just sitting there sipping a bottle of water waiting for you.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I turned too early.
Mm-hmm.
I turned a block ahead of your street because your street is weird in the way that it ends and starts and ends and starts again.
And there's a dead end version of it just over there.
So I turned too early, so I had to go another block out of the way. So I came in from a different direction. But when I turned on the road that yours dead ends into, bleh, I saw the camera car.
Yeah.
I saw Eric from One Off's car at the end of the street, and I thought, there's no way. Where's he? I started looking around for you, thinking, okay, maybe he's still running down the hill or something, and there's no way. There's no way he's made it already. And I make the turn onto your street, and you're nowhere in sight. And Eric is a long ways up the road already, close to your place, and I was just beside myself. And by the time I whooped into the driveway, I saw the garage door was open, and you were sipping on a cold bottle of water and enjoying your spoils.
Well, it was a lot of work, let me tell you, because, again, July 24th was the day we filmed this,
right?
A Friday, in the middle of summer, in Tyler, Texas. It was hot. It was humid.
I don't feel bad for you. It was your idea.
I know. And if you have ever tried to run through a swimming pool, that's about what it felt like with the humidity. Oh gosh.
It was pretty rough.
It was rough. It was hard to breathe. I did have to take several breathers. I called you a couple times. You called me once.
Yeah.
I did my best to actually be able to enunciate and speak to you between breaths because I was hoofing. It was hot.
So I made a potty break and jumped back in the car, and I'm pulling out of the parking lot. I thought, I'm going to call him and find out, And so I called you, and already, because where I stopped wasn't too far up the road anyway, but already it sounded like you were taking it easy. And I
could have been walking.
I thought, there's no way. There's no way. But it was that ounce of doubt that made me push a little harder.
And made you miss a turn.
And maybe bounce through a couple of, intersections and whatnot. Great suspension on that ID.4. It handles the bumps well.
So now that we've talked about the race and how we don't recommend racing a vehicle on foot in the middle of summer in Texas, what were your impressions of the vehicle? Because you and I previously drove one at Texas Motor Speedway as part of the Texas Auto Riders Auto Roundup this past April, and you walked away muttering under your breath, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it.
I'm still not buying one.
Okay.
I'll start off with that.
Okay.
Because they, and by they I mean Volkswagen, took a car and ruined it by making everything difficult to operate. The shifter is this twist button thing on the side of the turnstock on the wrong side of the steering wheel. All of the HVAC controls are in the screen.
No, they've got some haptic fake buttons just underneath
fake buttons.
Yeah.
Like it just everything was overly complicated. Everything was tied into the tech in some form or fashion. There were very few buttons.
More buttons than a Tesla, and the fact that you could actually position the vents yourself and not have to go and do that through the screen like you do on a Tesla.
Oh, that would drive me nuts.
Was a huge plus for someone like you. I can't wait to get you in a Tesla and just show you how drastic Tesla has leaned into using that screen.
And to what end? What happens when in 60,000 miles you go to adjust the vent and it quits adjusting because the software update didn't work right, or the little solenoid motor that's behind that vent went out, and now you've got to tear apart half the dash of a $100,000 car
for something that should have been a manually cheap piece of plastic.
Just make it a piece of plastic that moves. If you want it fancy, make it out of metal.
Exactly.
Oh,
I would say the best HVAC controls right now. We have not gotten to review one, but I'm working on it. New Honda Civic. Have you seen them? That honeycomb strip across the dashboard?
I have not.
Oh, it's glorious. Yes. Honda interior designers get bonus points for that one in my book.
I'm kind of partial to the Pontiac spin twist.
Yeah. That they
circular,
also put in the H2 Hummers and everything else of the era.
I really liked those a lot because, they were essentially infinitely adjustable in the direction, but
I like the Camaro / Blazer's adjustable rings that adjust the temperature when you move the outside bezel of the actual vent in the center. So that's a pretty cool little trick too.
Well, that's yeah. Now we're getting more complicated.
Anyway.
We're talking about something.
Yes. Rabbit holes.
So yeah, other than the tech being overly complicated and the general operation of the vehicle, there was a start stop button, but you didn't have to use it.
It was basically there for people who felt they must.
Right. So in essence, you could, with the key in your pocket, walk up to the car. It would unlock. You get in. You twist the little knob turn stock thingy to put it in drive and go. And that's it. And that's, put your seatbelt on. Of course, put your seatbelt on. But it was just, you're so disconnected from the driving experience.
The engine start up.
There's no engine noise. Even the road noise is not, you're just so isolated from everything that is enthusiast, everything that is vehicle about that vehicle. And I said it on our episode with Brake Check. Instead of making EVs, which have their own persona, their own, just make a vehicle that's electric. Take something that exists and make it electric, like Ford has done with,
I was gonna say,
the Mach-E, with the F-150.
The F-150 Lightning, I would say, is the best personification of that remark.
Right. Yeah, and I would agree with you. Yeah, the Mach-E was a purpose-built vehicle, but it's incredibly CUV shaped and the way that it acts.
Right.
Although I haven't been behind the wheel yet, so there may be some limitations there. But yeah, the F-150 Lightning being the best iteration of a vehicle that's electric instead of making it an EV.
So we have a quick walk-around video from the Chicago Auto Show of the F-150 Lightning, and I did have a comment on that video about, why is there a shift lever there? That doesn't need to be there. And why this? Why that? And it was exactly to your point of, it is an F-150 that happens to be electric.
Right.
And the fact that pickup truck buyers are, I don't want to say set in their ways, but are set in their ways.
Easy.
And adapt slower to change.
Well, they know what they like.
Right. And so about the only giveaway on an F-150 from sitting behind the wheel that you're in a Lightning is that huge vertical screen that they ripped out of the Mach-E.
Yeah, 32-inch television on its side.
And slapped in the dashboard. Other than that, you really wouldn't know. The little folding drive mode selector, I guess would be the appropriate term for it here. It's not a gear selector, but that's still there. Everything is still there that would lead you to believe it's just a normal F-150.
Yeah.
And then you open the hood and there's a frunk up there. There's no V8, no power boost, no EcoBoost,
nothing,
no diesel, no nothing.
Nope.
Potentially luggage, or in the case of one of our friends, a girl in the frunk. But go check out Jill and all her work. But there's something to be said about Ford's approach with the Lightning that so well echoes that sentiment of, let's just make a vehicle that is electric. And I think, based on our conversation about Tesla ID.4 Lightning,
right,
ID.4 slots somewhere in between.
It does.
Because they did keep some things traditional vehicle, but then, yes, they also did stupid things like all the haptic buttons. Give me knobs.
Yep.
Give me actual physical controls for HVAC and all that good stuff.
Give me a button for every roll-downable window in the vehicle.
That is the biggest head scratcher to me. So for those of you who don't know, the driver's door only has 2 window switches on it and a a haptic button, not even a real button above it that says rear. So you roll down the front windows, then you push that button that says rear, it lights up orange, and then you can use those same two window switches to roll down the rear windows.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll do some kind of software update where you can, some combination of something, roll all four at the same time, but why?
Or the thing that you never could get to work right. And
Hey
talk,
ID?
talk to the car and make it roll the windows down or whatever.
Well, one, I don't think she could hear me through all my heavy breathing. She was like, "Is he talking to me?
Right.
I don't what?" And two, yeah, some of that technology, we're still working on it. One of our friends, Tia Collier from Texas Auto Riders and Dallas Single Mom, she and I were actually on the same flight to the Chicago Auto Show. She had an ID.4 for the week of that auto show, and she and I were talking about it, and she was like, "Yeah, it took me forever to figure out how to change the temperature in there." And I was like, "Well, you can just say, 'Hey ID, I'm hot,' or 'I'm cold.'" She goes, "What?" And sure enough, the first Instagram post I saw after she got home was to that end. She's like, "Hey ID, I'm hot." And sure enough, she took care of that. And I was like, "You're welcome."
Yeah.
So it's a cool, unique feature, but it shouldn't be the default. Like, you shouldn't have to do that as the convenient.
You shouldn't have to, or if you do, it should work every time.
Right.
Period.
Which,
we're at the point of having self-driving cars, self-floating boats, and self-flying planes, although that's been happening for a long time anyway. Why can't we have artificial intelligence that understands a hillbilly from a redneck, from an Irishman, from a Brit, from what is so difficult about? Well, for one, it's the English language. I understand that, but if you're going to put it in there, make sure it works.
Yeah. So my house is heavily, I don't want to say reliant upon, but integrated with Siri. Like, you can open and close certain doors in my house and yada, 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 yada. And it's interesting how many times, like, adding things to my shopping list, they get put in weird places, or I ask her to do something and she does something else entirely.
Right.
Or my wife and I are sitting in her office talking, and all of a sudden the kitchen speaker starts playing. What does the fox say? And we're like, "Did you do that? No. Did you do that? No. What's she on?"
Right.
So, yeah, it's technology. I love and hate it.
Yeah.
And of the two of us, I'm the person that'll lean more heavily into it. But even I am like, okay, ID.4, you took it just a smidge too far.
Right.
Like, you can have that cool Hey ID stuff in there, but also just give me a knob to quickly fling left or right and make it hot or cold in there.
Yeah.
Like, don't overcomplicate it by trying to make it simple.
Do you think manufacturers are looking at this going, okay, we've made an electric vehicle. It's going to cost us X amount of dollars. Mm-hmm. So in order for us to make any money off of this, we're going to have to sell it at $50,000 or $45,000, I think is where the ID started out.
Yeah, ours was 44, 45, 46, somewhere in there.
So when you consider, okay, for a 4.5 person CUV, in this case it's all electric, but for a 4.5 person CUV, for $45,000, you could go get a really, really nice Kia or almost a Lexus. We had the NX300 a while back. I mean, you could probably find a really nice used Mercedes or Lincoln, or, I mean, like, is there something about the price point for the sake of making it electric that the manufacturers are up against? And so they think, well, we can't make it any more premium because that costs more money, so we'll just add more oddities and tech to it so you feel like you have something special.
I'll make this as quick and...
I know it was a mile-long question.
Yeah, simple as I can. One, economies of scale. The amount of EVs out there versus the amount of internal combustion just there is no comparison right now. It's drastically
So stop making them.
one-sided. And two, I think the biggest thing with them doing all these electric-only versions is in their minds they're like, well, we can make it better with software updates. We can change it with software updates. Whereas if there is a physical something in there, it is how it is, and it'll stay that way forever. So I think those are the two big things: economies of scale and just working against supply and
hardware
demand
versus software,
and then hardware versus software, and being able to flash a software update over the air overnight while you're sleeping, and you get in. It's just like you've got an iPhone sitting here in between us. Every software update makes it just a little bit better. Sometimes they make it a little bit worse.
You hope so.
Right. And I would say most, if not all, major phone operating systems have gotten to the point where it's just marginal updates at this point. And at some point, the vehicle will get there as well, where it's just like, okay, we're going to tweak this little thing, or this didn't work right, or, if we completely rethought it, it would work so much faster or better this way. But then, just like I'm going to put my Apple fanboy hat on, so the latest beta of iOS is out, and they completely changed the Safari web browser.
Okay.
Like, completely. It looks so different. Like, the address bar is at the bottom now, which makes it easier to reach with your thumb, especially on the larger screens of phones my size, stuff like that. And it's just like a drastic change. And I'm hearing mixed results back on that. And when the actual consumer version gets pushed out, the final wrapped up bow iOS 15 probably won't look like the beta that's out now because of the mixed reviews. It's gonna be somewhere in between what they initially rolled out in the beta and what we have now. And to that end, like what happens when someone who is very familiar with their car, because they've driven it every day for 10 years, goes out, which it'd be interesting if 10 years down the road you're still getting major software updates to a car, but play along with me. And like they've completely changed how something works. And we're getting to that point even in internal combustion cars with infotainment systems. I know we're running, I believe, Uconnect 3 on my wife's Jeep, and there have been some software updates to that make it work a little bit better and faster. But I know Fiat Chrysler Automotive, now Stellantis, is on their Uconnect 5, and it's a massive visual departure from everything in between. So it's really interesting to see how software and hardware of vehicles is moving forward and how that changes.
So let's lean into this a little bit when it comes to the trucking world, because in that industry, they have for a long time now the software updates and things for the ECMs and the way these vehicles communicate and operate. The most current, the most current for me, I've been out of that industry for a little bit, but the most current hardware was the J1939 software. The J1939 circuit is two 14-gauge wires, a green one and a yellow one. Mm-hmm. And those two wires are the only two wires that run in between all of the modules on that truck.
Okay.
So that's the superhighway for every bit of communication between every bit of those modules on that truck.
Right.
And the truck then decides, okay, do I give priority to the ABS module or to the transmission controller? Or do I give priority to the ECM or the brake control? Like all these different, the HVACs and all these things are all built in together, and they're all supposed to be able to communicate over these two wires. And they run into issues constantly,
right,
and have to push out software updates for the ECM, for the TCM, for the HVAC controls. For we'll have a truck come in, and the complaint would be, half of the truck is blowing cold and half the truck's blowing hot, and half the truck is blowing on the floor, the other's blowing on the dash, like up on the windshield. Right. And it was because the HVAC had gone stupid because something else was, the HVAC priority. Module had gone stupid, and now it's deciding to do its own thing and opening these blend doors and those blend doors, and so to rely so heavily on the software that goes into these vehicles is dangerous because, again, we're dealing with ABS modules. Right. We're dealing with whether or not this vehicle is going to shift.
Yeah.
I mean, like, potentially life and death situation type scenarios, and we're relying on whether or not somebody put a 0 or a 1 in a computer.
Yep.
So I have a hard time with this software. I understand the seemingly ease of it.
Right.
But it makes things complicated, overly complicated. They've gotten to the point now with the trucks where if a truck throws a code, it will email the nearest dealership, and you can set it up where it will run the diagnostics for you, decide what part it needs to order,
have it there waiting,
order that part, and have it there waiting for you with a ticket created, and it's assigned to a technician. Well, and when you roll in, it's already there waiting on you, and the computer has done all the work for you.
I like that.
When it works right.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times like the Facebook app just freezes on me, or I'm trying to tag somebody in a post and it just won't pull up their name.
Yeah.
And so
you can't have an ABS module freeze up on you.
Yeah. You are living on the side of the world where you have to think about that on a daily basis because you're dealing with the repairability of these. And meanwhile, someone like myself is like, well, that just sounds so cool. Like, it makes it so much easier. You mean I don't have to do anything? It tells me I need to go to the shop. The parts are waiting for me. It's going to cost this much. Well, that's awesome. Other than the fact that it's going to cost me something, but yeah.
Well, yeah. And for me, when I see the new tech, when I see the new gadgets, the new whiz bangs, the new gizmos, whatever,
all right, Willie,
my immediate thought is, how are you going to fix that?
Yep.
Because it's going to break.
Yep. And that's kind of where I lean into and kind of jab at Tesla for the fact that you literally have to control what direction the vents are pointing, where the air is blowing from that daggum screen. Like, there are some things that are just better left to a manual control.
Yep.
Like, you can oversimplify stuff. And I believe that is case in point right there. The direction of the air flowing from the vents in any Tesla product is case in point.
Yep.
Tie a bonnet and argument's done. There we go. So
we're a long ways from an ID.4
right,
at this point.
We are. We've tangented way away. So let's bring it back in as we wrap this episode up.
Yeah. I feel a little better though.
Yeah.
My vindication for anti-tech.
Right. And I apologize because the last time I stuck you in an ID.4, we followed it up with 797 horsepower.
Right.
I don't have any Hellcats laying around.
You don't.
And so you, I believe, hopped into your Subaru after that. Felt better? Is that what you needed? Was it enough to?
It certainly helped.
Right.
Our consensus over the past few vehicles that we've driven is it'd be great if it had 100 more horsepower.
I need to make that into a shirt. It'd be great with 100 more horsepower.
Right. Throw another 100 horses at it. It'll be perfect.
To that end, ID.4.
Yeah.
Would be great with 100 more horses.
Or 300 more.
Right.
Yeah.
So you and I don't know how it slipped past us on our review in April and how it took us until after the race to find it here, but the different drive modes and just how much better sport mode was.
I know how it slipped by us. For one, it's a Volkswagen.
Right.
And it's the most unsuspecting Volkswagen of any of them.
Exactly.
And it's the furthest from the sport-minded Volkswagen that you would see. The other is it's an EV.
Yeah.
And you couple those things, and there's no reason for a sport mode.
Yeah. Who would think to go look for it?
Exactly.
So, I will say that since it was named World Car of the Year, VW has also announced the GTX performance variant of the ID.4.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe it's the only way you can get one in red. And it does have more power, not 100 more, but I'm looking at the Car and Driver article on it right here, but with only 295 horsepower. It's still slower than the cheapest and least powerful Tesla. So that is the problem that most EVs really have to go up against, is because of the power and the gravitas of Tesla.
Right.
And ludicrous mode, and now Plaid and Plaid Plus, and just all these insane performance numbers that Teslas are putting out. Granted, it's not all Teslas. There are some slow Teslas out there. The cheapest ones are not like crazy, stupid fast, but they are faster than Nelly Cruz. I'll say that.
There's a lot of things faster than Nelly Cruz.
Right. But it seems like every single EV, performance-minded or not, is going to be, but how does it compare to Tesla this or Tesla that?
Well, they were the first to the game, so it kind of makes sense, except this is so far a departure.
They're the biggest name in the game, I'll say. They GM EV1, you can say that was, but let me tell you, I wrote an article on Teslas for vehiclehistory.com and dug into the history of the electric vehicle. It dates back way further than you would imagine.
Well, it's like
1918 or something.
120 years old, something like that.
And
it's
I'm
ridiculous.
Like, wait, what? So
sure, okay. So they were the first big player when it came to EVs. They were the mainstream EV.
They have definitely gotten everyone's attention with their performance numbers, and it's proof that not every vehicle has to be performance minded, but if you get enough of them out there, and that's the reputation you have, then you've got ID.4s. Yeah, but it's not Tesla.
Well,
so
sure.
If you're Tesla, you're sitting back and, yeah, that's right. You're comparing to us.
Oh, sure. And to that end, yes, if you're going to make a performance version, then it's going to get compared to all the other performance versions out there. And if it's subpar, guess what? I'm going to tell you it's subpar.
That being said, I do want to test it. It would be fun for a rematch. So, to that end, we'll wrap up this episode with how we concluded the YouTube episode of this zero emissions race between you and I.
Yeah, barbecue dinner was on the line.
Yes, and I'm still waiting for my Stanley.
You're going to be waiting a while, because I said double or nothing. So.
Okay. So you're not going to pay up beforehand. Okay. Because I could treat you and your wife or something. Anyway, if in the event that I were to lose, you're
gonna lose.
You had issued a rematch, and I'm very excited about it because there are other EVs out there that we could do this with. We could do it with another ID.4. There's some pretty cool possibilities out there. So if you are a dealer or a brand and you are listening to this, just know a challenge has been issued. Matt wants to make up for the fact that he came in second. To me, a couple of Nikes and a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears. And I kid you not, blood was shed on this trip. Rubbed a couple blisters. There was tons of sweat and maybe a few tears all circled up in there. So mine, maybe Matt's too, that he was in a movie.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
So there you have it, Gearheads. That is just a little behind-the-scenes action for you in our episode talking about the VW ID.4. If you have not watched that video, please go and do so.
I'm going to race you with a Cobra Jet 1400 EV.
No. Okay.
That's what we're doing next.
What do I get? I ain't going to be on foot at this point.
Why not?
Well, if you want to know more what we're into, some behind-the-scenes actions, go find us on Instagram at GT Garage Talk. Otherwise, gtgaragetalk.com. Until next time, bye.